always weird because I hate to start it with hey guys, but I always start it with hey guys.
Well, that's your shtick. And
that's everyone's shtick. Okay.
All right. Hey guys.
Literally every Instagram story. What's up, guys?
Okay. Now we've wasted some good film.
Film.
Just an expression.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today we are filming the 1 month update. So it's actually been a little bit over a month since the surgery. And we're really thankful to say that things are going pretty well at the moment. So along with the update today, we also are going to be doing a Q&A at the end of the video. I asked you guys on Instagram if you had any questions for us from the last 2 videos and got a couple. So we will go over those at the end of the video. If you haven't seen the last video yet, I'll be sure to put a link in the cards and in the description of this video. So make sure you go check that, actually the last 2 videos out. We did the last video 10 days after surgery, and so now it's been a little over a month. So it's not a lot of time, but at the same time it's a lot of time. The surgery seems like eons ago.
Yeah, a lot of good recovery's been made in what felt like a really long time, but is actually a fairly short time, I would say.
Yeah, in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
So in the last video we mentioned how we kind of felt like he was hitting a plateau in terms of healing, and we didn't know at the time that that plateau was going to last for another good 2.5 more weeks.
Yeah, so plateauing basically just felt like the movement in my neck seemed about the same, and actually it seemed to start getting a little bit worse. It just kept getting tight, kind of up and up and up, and then kind of spreading out and kind of around my neck. So right around the 3-week mark, I ended up actually calling my surgeon just because it just felt really tight and I was overly concerned about possibly maybe a hematoma or something like that. So I called her up and it was great. She answered and I was able to talk her through just, hey, I'm feeling a lot of tightness. It seems to be getting a little worse. And she said, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. That's all the scar tissue forming in your neck. So they took a lot out. So it makes sense that there's a lot of stuff that's got to fill back in.
And you even sent her pictures and everything so she could see just the incision and make sure that was all good. And it was.
It was. So basically I just had to, do some minor movements and some stretches and apply some warm compress. And that was kind of that's what she gave us to do for the next.
Kind of is what it is with healing, I mean, if there's no actual issue, you just have to deal with it.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. It really didn't hurt. It was just more uncomfortable. So I'm thankful for that nothing was really hurting. It was just so weird to move my neck around.
Yeah. So that was kind of a hard time. It's almost like your brain forgets all the hard times. I feel like even with kids and stuff, looking back, you forget the hard times. But I could just tell he was just over it, which I was just over it. I was ready for him to be able to start lifting the kids again and all that. I mean, he was really as helpful as he could possibly be while he was recovering, but still not the same as him just being able to be himself. So it was just hard, but we shouldn't even complain because, as hard as it was, it's nothing compared to what, had this been another type of cancer where if there was chemo, radiation, I mean, we saw my dad go through all kinds of horrific things for a year and just talk about a roller coaster. So just telling you how it was, and we're thankful that it wasn't worse than it was.
Agreed. So not much really happened. I got some blood work done to check my calcium levels, which were all good. I also went ahead and returned to work about 2.5 weeks after the surgery. I will say if I wasn't working from home, it probably would have been at least 3 weeks before going back. But working from home, I was able to go back. The only other thing we can remember was that my voice was a little bit hoarse. In fact, I had to practice my high notes in order to get my voice back up to where it was. So I could talk normally, but anytime I had to go a little bit higher, I felt like I was in puberty again, cracking my voice. So needless to say, the girls and I had a great time. Avery loved, hey, Dad, it's time for you to practice your high notes, and we sang songs, and you also have to do some shoulder stretches just to help preserve the nerve that they worked around in there. So the girls are a big help.
Yeah, actually Georgia even does the shoulder stretches.
She does
too. We all do them together sometimes.
Hands up. So the plateau finally started to ease around the 4-week mark. So that was a really long week or 2 of plateauing. But after that, the movement started to come back, and I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but definitely doing a lot better from a movement perspective. I don't notice it as much. And actually, the other thing that happened around the 4-week mark was all of the glue that was on the incision finally fell off.
Finally.
Yay. And what that allowed us to do is actually put these, you can kind of see, these are scar away bandages. So basically a silicone that you can put on to help the healing of the actual scar. So you wear these.
Like the look of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it looks really good. We'll put some photos, but it looks a lot better now, and hoping the scar away makes it even better. Maybe these make it harder to talk because it's like pulling on my neck again.
Well, I can say the next part.
Okay.
The main things that are still going on now are just obviously he takes Synthroid every day, and so far, it's been a full month on that, and I feel like we haven't noticed any issues or any signs that, his dosage is off or anything like that. So that's really good. We were very concerned about all that. Obviously, a medication that you have to actually rely on is a little scary. So we're thankful that it's been going well. And then in addition to now wearing the scar away, also just he needs to keep sun off of the scar because that can make it turn darker, I guess, the scar tissue. So in Florida, it's kind of hard to stay out of the sun, especially as we're approaching summer. But we ordered him some shirts that go higher, non-V-necks. And then he still has some numbness. I don't know if you want to describe that.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So I actually had this with my last surgery too, which was again kind of higher up my neck. I think just because they're working in the area, the nerves near the surface of the skin are a lot more sensitive. So actually I kind of have, it's really hard to describe. I guess I would describe it as some form of numbness from like my jawline down to kind of where the incision is. And I don't notice it really throughout the day. It's only if I touch it, or the worst part is shaving, because as you run the razor over it, nothing's like happening, but it just feels kind of tingly and it's like a little painful. But unfortunately, when I had this exact same thing happen with my last surgery, it took a good 4 to 6 months before I didn't feel it as much when I was shaving. So I would expect this time it would be at least 6 months, since they did a whole lot more in there.
So I think that is pretty much it for the update.
It sounded so simple talking it through again right now. It wasn't horrible, but it was just annoying and long and just uncomfortable.
So if we didn't have the girls, or if the girls weren't as young, I feel like that would have made a huge difference. That definitely made it harder because
I wanted to lift them. And
yeah, like they want you to lift them. You want to lift them. You want to be able to just move normally and play and all of this. And so that exacerbated the problem, I feel like.
Yeah. And I was able to start lifting Georgia. I think I lifted pretty much right after the 3-week mark, which is when they said we could start lifting again. So I was able to like lift her up onto my lap and I would hold her for a few minutes, but I wasn't able to start like putting her down for bed or, any of the major tasks for at least another week.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the update. And now we can just jump into the Q&A. All right, so I'll just go in like the order that I received the questions. So what hormones are needed to replace the thyroid post-removal?
So I take Synthroid, which is the brand name for, I'm going to look at my screen here, levothyroxine, which is the replacement hormone, which is the synthetic version of the hormone that your thyroid creates. And this hormone helps regulate your metabolism, as well as plays a major factor in like brain function and heart function and a lot of other things that I don't actually know because I'm not a doctor. But it's very important, and you need it to continue functioning.
So how could having thyroid cancer affect the voice box? So I think it's in regards to how we talked about you being hoarse and stuff like that.
Yes. So if you look it up, this is a common symptom or potential side effect of having a thyroidectomy or anything that you're going on in there.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is it's not really the cancer per se, it's the thyroidectomy that causes issues with that.
Your thyroid actually has nothing to do with your voice either, except that it sits right on the nerve that controls your voice box. So when they're doing the surgery and working around your vocal cords and the nerve that controls that, because it just gets agitated, you could potentially experience the hoarseness and even potential loss of your voice for a short period of time.
Yeah, so actually you can if your surgeon is not the best, or just there's a complication with your surgery, I guess, your vocal cords can actually become paralyzed, and you might even have to have like follow-up surgeries to try and correct that. So that was one of the many reasons, that we did all our research into the surgeons and wanted to have the best of the best. So we're thankful that he didn't really have too much of an issue with that. Obviously a little hoarseness, but overall, like, he was able to talk and sound like himself immediately following the surgery. So that was a relief.
Yes, for sure.
How did Avery handle the situation? How did you tell her?
Well,
so a little background on Avery, if you're not like familiar with us. So Avery is our 3-year-old daughter, and she is extremely
very aware.
She's very
tune.
aware. She's very emotional. She has a very high emotional intelligence. She just understands anything, and then going back to the fact that he already had a surgery, I think, made it this time easier for her to understand. But I don't even remember the first time.
Yeah, the first time, I think, I was just explaining to her, like, hey, Daddy's going to have a surgery. And what that means is that, I've got a little, at that point, it was removing the lymph nodes in my neck. And really, I just explained it pretty straight to her. Like, hey, there's a part of me that's inside that's sick, and they need to get it out. So they're going to, do a little bit, and they're going to cut me a little bit, and then they're going to take the bad part out, and it's going to make me feel better, and which she understood. And I think repetition was important. I would tell her a couple of times. She would also ask questions about it, and just being open, and I knew she could handle kind of the truth, I guess, with what was going on. She likes to know what's going on. So I remember when I told her, so that was a good setup. When I told her about my thyroid, I said, hey, there's like this like thing inside that looks like a butterfly, which is how everybody describes the thyroid, which she thought was pretty cool.
It just was kind of sad, like, when between the time that we told her, like, we waited, closer to the surgery to tell her, and then up until the surgery, she just sometimes would randomly kind of get sad and be like, I don't want Daddy to have a surgery. And it just like kills
Me
you
neither.
inside. I know. I mean, we're honest. We're like, I know, but he has to, and we'll get through it as a family. That's what we do.
But she did good, just explaining it. And
even the other day, she said, I didn't want Daddy to have his surgery. And it just, like, it's so sweet. So it definitely affected her. And, she obviously knew what was going on and that Daddy couldn't do certain things. But we all got through it together, including her. And Georgia has just no idea what's going on.
Yep.
Is he back to work since his surgery? He's an engineer, correct?
I am an engineer. I am an engineer.
And I am too.
That's right.
I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I am an engineer. Nobody can ever take that away from me. That's what my mama tells me.
Yeah, we actually are both the same engineer and graduated at the same time and went through school together. So, but yeah, anyway, we're both industrial and systems engineers. And like I mentioned before, I went back to work about 2.5 weeks after the surgery. But again, mostly because it was work from home. It would have been
his job, he's been working from home since the start of the pandemic.
It's just been easier to be at home.
Yep. So speaking of work, how did you manage with work? When did you tell them, et cetera, et cetera? So
I had my surgery, that first surgery. Go back to the first video to learn. So I had my first surgery back in October. And so following that surgery, when we found out about the cancer a few weeks later, at that point I did tell my bosses, so kind of the chain, just what was going on, and that I likely won't be having anything else going on for the next 6 months, because that's when the surgery was going to happen. So after that, those were really only the people who knew the kind of
the need to know basis.
The need to know, yeah. As it got closer to the surgery date, and I had to obviously block my calendar, I told a few people on my team that I was going to be out. But other than that, it was pretty quiet.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily you work with really great people who everyone was more than understanding, which, what would it say about someone if they weren't understanding of a cancer, like a cancer diagnosis? But, we're lucky that you have a very flexible job in terms of, the ability to have the time off and come back and just pick up where you left off on things. So it's like a family. So
it is. So I'm very, very thankful for that. Both my work family and my client family, they've been a big help through the process.
Somebody asked, how did you find out about the cancer? You gotta just go back to the first video.
Go back.
It's a long story. Any gift suggestions? What can other people do when someone they love has cancer?
This is such a great question, and also really hard to answer too. I think there's a couple things that stood out to us.
Yeah.
That happened to us.
It's really the little things when it comes down to it, because you can't like fix someone's cancer for them. So it's only little things that you can do.
I think ultimately, like being willing to listen to the person and ask questions beyond just like, oh, how you doing? I think because just the general reaction to that question is like, doing good. Asking more questions and just be willing to listen. How are you? How is the family doing? I know this can be really. I can imagine this can be really tough.
Yeah.
I'm here to support you. Like
knowing that people care is really the main thing. So however you can get across to the person that you care, and not just on the day of the diagnosis too. I think that's the biggest thing, is being there for the long haul. And went through this with my dad, and still going through it with the grieving process. It's not like these things just come to an end and get tied up with a nice little bow and all good. It's the rest of your life. So just showing them that you're there and checking in, and not every day, because nobody has time for that on either end. You don't have time for that and they don't have time for that, but just an occasional check-in. Or I had shared a post on Instagram a week ago or so about little ways to make someone smile, and just simply letting people know that you're thinking of them is such like an underrated thing that means so much. I mean, just to text someone, whether they're going through cancer or not, just an old friend or anything, to just say, I was thinking of you today. Just wanted to say hi and hope you're doing well. Like, you don't even have to ask any questions or anything. Just let them know you're thinking of them.
People that we're friends with Katie on Instagram, like we got a Starbucks gift card for $10, or a family member sent over, asked what we really liked and sent us some gift cards for Chick-fil-A. It's these simple things that, don't impact you too gratefully, but mean the world to us, because you just don't expect it.
Yeah, just like touched us so much, just that someone, would invest in us in order to make our lives a little easier during this time.
So it's just the little things. Being genuine, being there.
Okay, so the last question says, did the surgery remove all of the cancer?
Well, we don't know yet.
We hope so.
We hope so. The Clayman Center who did the surgery has a really, really, really great record at removing all the surgery and not having things reoccur. Really don't know exactly how long until we won't know. But so we have a follow-up with our endocrinologist in a few weeks. And before that, we'll do some blood work that will measure my thyroid levels and thyroid tissue in my body. And the idea with that is that there's really no thyroid tissue since everything was removed. So that's kind of the first indication of whether they got it all, is that hopefully that number is close to 0.
Yeah, so that's one other thing that we were going to mention to the prior question about things that you can do for people that are sick, with cancer or other things. And one thing that has really meant the world to us is people have asked us, not just like, oh, we're praying for you, but they've asked, how can we specifically pray for you? And that just is so kind that, we would be added to someone's prayer list. That just like touches my heart.
I got chills just saying it. Yeah.
If you want to do that for us, then the specific prayer would be that the surgery did in fact remove all of the cancer, and his blood work will reflect that, and he will need no further treatment. That is our current prayer.
Thank you all for all of the prayers.
Yes,
and the thoughts.
Thank you so much for all of the support, since we announced this, and just the encouragement for sharing our story, because, it's a journey in and of itself, but I think that it's gonna be helpful for people, and
I hope so.
That's what we're going for. So anyways, thank you guys so much for the continued prayers. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for caring about us and our family. It truly means so much to us. Words cannot describe. So we will see you in the next one.
See you next time.
Bye.